What's up? This your boy Humble Dad back with another edition of Humble Dad Podcast. We got a great show for you tonight. Why? Because I said so. Got a star-studded, I would say, panel. We're going to be talking about how to encounter the police given the circumstances and situation around Trye Nichols. And if I said that wrong, we'll get it corrected. And so I want, and all the other incidences that have taken place as it relates to police encountering people and ending their life. And so we're going to have a conversation that is hopefully helpful to the listener and even to ourselves. So we're going to welcome to the stage. We're going to start it up with my homie, my friend, Mr. Sir Hale.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, bro. How you doing?
Excellent.
That's good. I see you've been working out, bro.
Yo, I've been doing a little
was that from one picture from a long time ago?
a long time ago in terms of 2 days ago.
That's a fact. All right, so the question that we're going to start with is, what's your favorite city to visit?
Yeah, my hometown, Chicago. Yep, so it's my favorite place to go. When I go there, I try to go get some Giordano's, go downtown, look at the fountain downtown, go to the lake view. But Chicago, that's my favorite place to visit.
That's a bet. I haven't been there. People keep telling me that I need to go. For sure.
Summertime, that's the place to be. Right around July. Perfect time.
Summer, July. That's a bet. I keep that on the radar. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Prototype in the dark.
What's up?
Chilling, man. How you doing?
Man, living a dream.
That's a bet. So what you got, man? What's your favorite city to visit?
My favorite city currently is Houston, man. Everything is bigger in Texas, man. And, it's the only place that I can live right now outside of Atlanta. So Houston's my favorite spot at the moment.
That's a bet. Houston is the spot. So we got Houston and Chicago, and then we're going to come back with Miss Shay McNuckles. You're on mute, Shay.
I am on mute. Thank you. So if anyone knows me, they should already know it's not a city per se, but it is a parish. So my favorite parish to visit is Ocho Rios. That's my favorite spot in the world.
Where is that? Like for the people like myself that don't know where that's at?
In Jamaica.
That's a bet. Jamaica. What's one thing that you like about it?
When they say no worries, it's literally when I get there, I don't have no worries. It's just like I'm totally free. I'm not thinking about anything about work, anything about anyone else. It's just totally me time. The people are good. They're totally sweet. The food is great. I love the music. So yeah.
You realize I asked you for one thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said favorite, so I just had to.
And then I said, "What's the one?" Okay, best. I'm just messing with you.
Women don't follow directions, you know.
Hey, you said it. I didn't. Hey, welcome to the stage, Mr. Bruiser.
What's going on, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing, bro?
Doing good, man. I can't complain.
That's what's up. Hey, thanks for being here. You got the question?
Yeah, my favorite city. And you said they don't got to be in this country, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in the country, no.
Okay. My favorite city is Tongducheon. It's Korea.
Ah, okay. Why is that?
I like the city in Tongducheon. The food, the culture, it's just different. So I like when I was in Korea. I served in the military, so I got to go station at Camp Casey, and that's where I was at, Tongducheon.
That's a bet. Thank you for your service, homie.
All righty.
That's a bet. Hey, welcome to the stage, Miss Kelly. Thank you for being here. How you doing?
Doing great. Good evening, everyone. My favorite city, I would say that I have visited and I live next to has been Washington, D.C. I mean, I lived in Alexandria, Virginia, but just the state capital alone, just seeing us be successful and like, I mean, I visited when I was young, like a young adult, but just us people being successful. Like that's where I seen it at the most, and I was like, "Whoa, I love it! I love it here."
That's a bet. I appreciate that. Hey, we're gonna welcome to the stage my accountability partner, Mr. Dwayne Jones. What's going on, sir? You're on mute again.
Appreciate that. Man, sorry about that. I had the fork in hand. We were in battle.
No problem.
All right. Favorite city? I have to say San Diego, California.
Mm.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. If I could be somewhere, I'll be on the coast, preferably the West Coast. Uh, but yeah, San Diego. Went out there for some training. My buddy showed me around all the city, the food spot, the Sunset Cliff. Man, beautiful sunset, beautiful ocean. So yeah, I'd say San Diego.
Of let's see, somebody we got to kind of mute in between when we're talking because of a couple feedback every now and then. Um, let's see, hey RGD, are you there? You may have stepped aside for a moment. So when he comes back, we'll let him know. So we're gonna get directly into the conversation. The overall conversation is going to be about how we encounter the police, and so. But we're gonna start here. How would you rate police overall? How would you rate police overall? And we'll start with Sir Hell, and then you'll choose who goes next.
That's a big question. HD, I like what you do. I like how you do it.
Thank you, sir.
So it's a difficult thing, and the reason why is because if I just look at my own personal experiences, I have a negative experience with the police. Right, my first encounter, the first time a gun was pointed at me, wasn't somebody on the street; it was the police. Just being pulled over, being frisked, that was the police. So my experience early on was negative. However, I got police in my family, so I get a chance to see it from a different side. And then when you kind of step out of the minutia of why people get stopped and frisked, and you look at it at a higher level, it's a bigger thing. You dress a certain way, you look a certain way, you fit a profile, you fit a description. If you're in a community that's drug infested, so on and so forth, there's a lot of different things. So with all that being said, overall, I believe that most police are good, are decent people. And I think that what we hear is the bad officers, what they do is amplified. So I don't know if that answers the question about rating, but I believe that most police officers are decent people, but that we do have some really, really bad people who have the uniform, who do those bad things behind their badge.
So what's a grade that you would get them on a score? Like if you was a teacher and a score from 0 to 100, what score would you give them?
6.
From 0 to 100?
Oh, I'm sorry. Listen, I'm not used to do. I'm used to go from 0 to
Yeah.
10. My bad about that.
No
So
worries.
about a 60 then.
All right, bet. All right, who you got going next?
Let's go with Kelly.
I agree with you, Sir Hill. My dad is actually a police officer. Needs to retire because he's climbing up there in age. But he's a detective now, so he's kind of chilling, but still, I think that there's some great cops out there. I actually applied myself to be a Dallas police officer, but because of a ticket that I got, it didn't go the route I wanted to go. But I do believe there's some great people out there that really put on the uniform because that's a job that you can't even look at that you're doing for pay because they absolutely don't get paid enough money for what they have to go through. And I do believe that it is some bad cops out there that that are putting on this uniform and putting trash out into the community and wearing their badge, and not the badge of honor, just the badge of thinking I'm Billy Joe the bad ASS, you know what I mean? But I oftentimes, like, when things do happen, I do kind of call my dad and ask him, what's your take on this, or why do you think this occurred? And just seeing it from his perspective, it give me a different kind of light on, how things could have transpired that way. Not saying that, he takes up for all police officers. I can tell you, like, the one incident where I don't know, it was a couple of years ago, where the female teenager got shot. She was like into a fight or something. It happened like on the day that George Floyd accusers, the police had got, they were in court and they got, I don't remember where it happened. It was a black teenager and she had a fight. Do you all recall that?
Was it like a pool party or something that she, like, outside of a pool party or something like that?
It wasn't a pool party, but it was some teenagers fighting and some adults there. Of course, the adults didn't break it up. The police were called on the scene and she was tased and shot.
Yeah, I think that was a pool party one.
But I kind of got his thought process, my dad thought process on that, and he was like, the cop was dead wrong in that situation. But overall, I think it's some great people that wear their badge, and I mean, I just think about if I was in that profession, like, I want to go home to my family every night just as well as the citizen want to go home to their family every night.
So what score would you give them overall?
Well, with the things that's going on today and the thing that recently happened, probably like a 60.
Okay. Who you got going? Okay. Who you got going next?
I'm gonna go with Prototype.
Uh-oh. Watch out.
Man, as far as my personal experience with police officers, I would probably give them more like an 82. I know how to kind of handle myself, so I keep myself out of harm's way. When it comes to that, I stay lawyered up, so I just never really worry about that kind of stuff, and I listen to what the advice that they give me, and it's helped me stay out of trouble that way. I mean, there are some incidents that I've had with police officers. I was just like, all right, that's a little weird, man. But for the most part, I keep my interaction with police officers straight to the point, and just not many words.
We'll talk about that part later. But just
okay. But yeah,
how
so
would you rate?
I would just give it an 82.
So basically, some good experiences.
Yeah, definitely. Because yeah, I guess we'll go into more later, but I'll give it an 82.
That's a bet. Who you got going next?
Let's get Dwayne out the way.
Dang, I was on mute. I'll give it a good 8.5.
Okay, let's go back over this again. Okay, now the scale is from 0 to
85.
100.
85. My GED gave me that one real quick. Next. 85.
God bless that GED.
For sure. Why an 85, bro?
85, man. I think people fault police officers for doing stuff that's immoral. Why fault them? That's in every profession. It's just particularly the spotlight can shine on whatever profession they decide to shine the spotlight on. So, for example, with police officers, they're just law enforcement officers. So they enforce the law. The law, they don't write. They just enforce it. So they get a bad rep for the morality piece of it. Did they do the right thing? And it's easy for us to say what the right thing is, not being in the situation. And there are some instances where our society is really allowed to act a fool, right? And they have to enforce the law, and the other side don't think that they have to abide by the law. So there goes conflict, and conflict is something that you can have order out of chaos. So you can cause the chaos and then enforce the order. So that's where I look at it from an enforcement and a legislative difference. They're just doing their job, just like a doctor will do their job. But the morality piece is what then is the key criteria for me.
I got you. Who you got going next?
Come on with it, Bruiser.
I would shit. That's a good question.
Thank you. I try.
If I was to rate them, I would just rate them. I'll give them 100. I'm gonna go ahead and be bold and get out there. I'm gonna give them 100 because the standard is not set for them. So it's not like there's any standard grading system on how their performance is supposed to be. Because I would say, and oftentimes the public don't even really know seriously how they're supposed to operate. And when we do know how they're supposed to operate, it's always being checked down. It's always being disregarded. You know, they got this blue wall of silence or whatever. So I would say that the things that they've been doing over the past years, generations or whatever, I believe it's simply what they're supposed to do. I don't think these things are mistakes, me personally. That's just my personal opinion. I think they're doing what they're supposed to do and what's intended. And it is ugly, but to me, it's just that's the system. That's how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to put fear in the community. Not supposed to put safety and you know what I'm saying, a feeling of safety or ease of mind. And there comes with sacrifices. So the only way to strike fear in the community is somebody got to take a loss. Some parents are gonna have to take losses. I feel like that's by design. So I would say, if I look at the design as a whole, overall, I would say it's 100. It's working pretty well.
What an interesting take. Somebody have something to say to that?
I mean, are we going to another? Should we elaborate on that? Like what?
We'll come back to it, but let RJD come in and give his thoughts, and then if somebody has something to say to Bruiser, because I seen y'all faces. So
Yeah, I'm gonna hurry up and get out of the way so they could go back with Bruiser. Me, I give it because I have both sides of the law. I've been on both sides. I'm gonna simply say I give him a 75.
Why 75?
Because in my experience, I've only met a few bad ones.
Low battery.
And I've
Please
encountered a lot of
charge.
them. You know what I'm saying? Like in my experience, I've encountered a fair amount of cops, and each time I've encountered them on both sides of the law, right? As a law-abiding citizen, and then as someone who plays on the other side of the world, every time I've encountered them, I was blessed to find an individual who see me as a human and not see me for what I was doing. But then there was those few other times where I did meet some of those guys, and by the grace of God, I didn't have to deal with them physically like others of our hue has dealt with them. But I've seen some damage that they can cause firsthand. So 75 is just going on my experience and not me playing on what the media has showed me. My experience gives me 75 in my eye.
That's a bit. Thanks for sharing. So somebody wanted to respond to Bruiser.
Yeah, the pump fair comment. Like, what's the backing behind
Low
that?
battery.
Why would
Please.
you say that it's their job to pump fear into the community?
I would say I would say pump and fear is just a small technique, a part of a bigger plan, a part of a bigger agenda. And I would say the fear is necessary if you want to carry out the bigger part of the agenda.
Yeah. So I think so. to me, the fear, well, from a consequence standpoint, yeah, I can lose my life, but then I also then fear losing monetary funds. So if the law is to go 60 miles per hour, and yeah, there's grace. There's a little grace that they can give you, but the law says if you're driving on the highway at 60 miles per hour, then by driving your car, you agree to that. So if they catch you going 69, 70, 80 miles over per hour, and the speed limit's only 60, then they then have the right to then enforce the law. Like, and that is something we can't necessarily hold against them unless we're then treating us unjustly. So I think there are certain things that we have to abide to, but then there are certain, again, human aspects that it goes along with it, whether it's greed, whether it's pride. There's those things that are associated with it as well. So it's a tough job enforcing law because you're going to hurt someone somehow. So for me, like getting a $250 ticket, to some that won't hurt. To me, like, man, hey, I could have put that towards something else. So that's one portion of it. Yes, that would hurt, but what would hurt even more is losing my life. So then they have the authority to do both: write you a ticket or take your life. It just, whether it's it to me, it seems to be whether it is legal or illegal.
So just to chime in, I don't think fair is necessarily um, the police doing that. I think that's something that maybe society is doing to say, "Hey, fear this." Just kind of like it. We fear sharks, but sharks aren't saying, "Hey, be scared of me. I'm a shark." No, I mean, it's a shark. Be scared of it, but it's not the a shark's not going around saying to everybody or installing fear into anybody.
Well, listen, I don't think we fear sharks. I wouldn't say we fear any animal. I think we the top of the food chain. We the strongest species on the planet. I think it's a fear of what the result would be if they were to attack you. It's not just fearing the animal itself. The animal itself can be tamed and maintained and put in aquariums for entertainment and all that other stuff. We just have the dominance to be able to do that. The fear comes from being attacked, what these things are capable of, but we're able to mitigate that. Whenever you have a force or organization where you don't have any control, where you don't have a way to mitigate that, then there's fear behind it because you fear comes from not knowing the outcome, not knowing the possibilities, especially when your life is at stake and you only got one chance. And just simply not knowing the future or the next second or the next minute is where the fear comes from. Not because from the person itself, but comes from where will you end up after the day? Are you gonna make it home? Are you gonna be able to see your daughter? Or are you gonna be able to see your son? You know what I'm saying? You see your mother. You're gonna be able to continue your life. I think that's where the fear comes from, just not knowing at all.
So even if we stick with the shark analogy, right? If you don't know how to handle sharks, you don't know how to tame, put it in a cage for entertainment. You don't know how to do that. You have to learn how to do that to a shark for you to have that upper hand. And without that upper hand, you have fear. Just like you said, not knowing what could come. All we know is that sharks can attack you, eat you, whatever. And if you know, even if you do know how to tame, handle, and whatever, sharks. I mean, what's the guy that died from being stung by like a manta ray? Some
Irwin,
yeah,
Steve
right. So
Irwin.
so there's still a fear of this could go wrong, even if I have supreme skill sets and knowledge of a situation. But still, it's not the shark saying "be scared of me." So I just don't. I don't know. I just want we can go deeper into the conversation. I don't,
Well, so
Okay.
to that point though, I can kind of get with what Bruiser was saying. So there's no inherent fear. The only time I'm fearing is if I'm in that particular domain. As long as I'm not in the water, I mean, I can go look and you can be my pet. I can go watch you. It's only a level of fear when you're in that environment, like that, their environment, and they have the control. Like, so let's take that with the police. You get into the system, you get arrested or something happens, and now you're in that system. That's where the fear comes in, because it's easy to get into the water. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it take 2 seconds to get in. It take a long time to get out of that. And what, depending on what you have to fight against, determines your fear for that. So if you get a record early on for something, or you get falsely accused, and now you're in that water, sometimes the fear is not based on a perceived fear. Sometimes you're thinking about what already happened, and you're trying to mitigate that from happening, or even from getting worse again. Because you know how what happens, you get arrested once, a conviction, and then it escalates. You see what I'm saying? So again, I think the fear doesn't exist as long as you're not in that system where you have no control.
But let's say you are in that environment and you were able to escape it the first time. You kind of have better sense on the second. You should have better sense on the second time you might end up in the water. So if you deal with police the first time, right, it could be quite scary. But after you get used to dealing with police in your community, police in a traffic stop, and you get some sense about how to deal with police, there is no fear. You just got to understand the situation, know what to do. That's going to have your best outcome at hand, and trust that process.
The difference is like let's again. I don't want to abuse this scenario. So
Go ahead.
let's say we in the water, right?
Wow.
And you know what happens? As long as I ain't bleeding, there ain't no blood. But as soon as I start bleeding, oh, they coming to get me. As soon as you got a record, you see what I'm saying? So I hear what you're saying. It's not that we're fearing the police; it's that we're concerned with what the system can do. Because all it takes is a little something, and the hounds come out.
Some may say that simply getting into the water, I know the fear comes with, or the chances of being attacked, or is simply getting into the water. But some would say getting into the water could be just the color of your skin. And when you get into the water, is being raised.
We're having some issues. I can't hear you.
Is that me?
Not sure who it is.
I just paused.
Is that me? That's not me, right?
No, you good. We good.
All right. So some would say simply getting into the water is your skin color, and you in the water automatically by default. Some would also say getting into the water is being raised by a single mother. It's without a father in the household, you're 20 times more likely to be incarcerated or have any police encounters. So it's all about it. You could say it's you can use statistics, but I think perception is I think somebody said something about perception earlier. It's a big thing too.
Yeah, I'll say we're talking about situations where we're vulnerable, and a level of vulnerability is the not knowing. So I think whenever it comes to dealing with the police, I think there's a sense of knowing your rights, and you do have rights. And at the end of the day, and with our best intentions and with our best hope, we would then hope that we then have secured the rights in which we need to be free. So police officers are law enforcement officers. They have to enforce the law, and I think the law applies to them, and in some cases even more strenuous than it does the citizen, because they should be held to a higher expectation. So again, I think for the citizen, the most important thing that, and I'll say it like this: it doesn't even matter what your skin color is. It's important to know your rights, and because if you don't know your rights, then you become vulnerable. We know sharks cannot swim on land, so once you enter into the water, that's a different. You're giving up portions of your rights. Can humans swim? Yes, they can, but can they swim as good as sharks? So I think at the end of the day, there are preys, and then there are victims, predators, and there are certain people that will prey on you, and then there are certain people that will become victims. But if you know your rights, like, that's survival of the fittest. So if you know your rights at the end of the day, then that should prevail. We would hope, and that's why we have. As for the United States, we live in the greatest country that is able to then adhere to those rights, in my opinion.
Good dialogue. Hey, Shay, did you have something to add as far as how would you rate police overall?
As in a number?
0 to 100, Shay.
0 to
Sorry, the
100.
number is yeah. Thank you, Kelly. 0 to 100.
Okay.
0 to 100.
Hmm. I guess maybe 43. Yeah.
Why?
Um, I do believe that the bad apples probably overshadow the good ones. Um, I also think that the they're like a brotherhood, right? And so they typically tend to look out after one another, and internally there is a lack of accountability within the brotherhood. And so I think because that accountability doesn't exist as well as it should, then we're seeing a lot of the chaos publicly, um, with the citizens that they are supposed to protect and serve. And so I think, like Dwayne said, they should be held to a higher standard. But the thing about that is, when you have some officers who do choose to, then they are reprimanded for taking action that isn't in support of the brotherhood and the travesties that take place. It's just like I would compare it to, conversations that people have internally with their families that they know they wouldn't have with other groups of people outside of their families. Those conversations take place. Those situations exist. It's very well known of the things that they don't do well. And I think a lot of it I think some of it has to do with training. I don't want to say a lot of it has to do with training. I think that is the way out, the scapegoat, in a sense that, oh, they need better training, they need better training. I think it's just so easy to just say we need better training, um, and to allow the situations to continue to happen. So I would say a 43. They not meeting 50% because it's some internal work that needs to be done before even we start to have a conversation about training. These are just real conversations. This is just dialogue. This is humanity, um, that should be addressed at the table, and it's not happening at all. So
For sure. Thank you for your take. So, I've did a little bit of research on this like a long time ago. So, as it relates to police killings and things of that nature, and the, it is it seems to be at times that it's definitely unnecessary uh, for a life to be taken. Um, but I want to kind of transition just a little bit. I think I'll go to this question next, uh, and see how the table would turn. So the question that I have is, who do men submit to? Who do men submit to? We'll start with Bruiser, and then you can tell us who you want to go next after you, Bruiser. Who do men submit to?
Who do men submit to?
Yes.
Ugh. And we assuming that all men are on the same page as far as spirituality and religious belief, right?
You can take it however and whatever you want to say, and you can give your own context if you will, if you want to.
I mean, I would say submit to God, but I wouldn't submit to God is very strong, because then that means that everything that you do and everything about you and how you move, your character, the choices and decisions you make is within his guidelines, within his will. And to say a man submits to God, it's a lot. You know what I'm saying? I can't even say, honestly, I couldn't even say I submit to God. I would say I try, in my walk. I try to treat other people, how I want to be treated. But to say I submit to God is to say, like, if we're looking at it like a woman submitting to us, that's also, strong. Like, a woman not being combative and a woman staying in line and allowing us to lead and guide the household and stuff like that. So submitting to God, I would say on the most part, man would submit to a higher being. I don't know how, but for me personally, to think about it, I would say I submit to reality. The things that I can understand. A lot of stuff that I can't understand is very difficult for me to submit to. I would say I would have faith in those things, but as far as submitting, I would say I submit to what's real. And we can let Sir Hell go.
Yeah, so excellent question. I agree. So submit to God, that's number one. But here's the thing: when you submit to God, God uses people, and which means that you have to espouse a level of humility to submit to the God in someone else. And that's a very difficult thing to do. I am one of those men, I will do it myself. I don't need help. I'll figure it out. That's my mentality. As I get older, however, I start to recognize that I model for my sons the way that I conduct myself. So if I can't listen to authority above me and have the humility to say this person is above me, and I don't mean in terms of they have more value than I do, but they've lived longer than me. They've got experiences that I don't have. They've got perspective that I need. And if I humble myself, I can gain from that. Well, if I can't submit to the God in someone else, it's very difficult for me to try to get someone to submit themselves to me if I'm conflicted in my ability to submit to the God in somebody else. So it has to be God, but it can't just be this ethereal, this philosophical idea that I submit to. It has to be my concept of God represented in people. And so I can show you my submission to God by my ability to work with someone that's above me that I can learn from, that I can be poured into. Does that make sense? So man submits to God, and then we submit to the God in man, knowing that human people are going to fail. And so we have to be able to know that imperfect people still have value, and that just because they fail does not mean that their value is diminished. A very difficult thing to do, but that's my answer.
Sir Hell. That was very eloquent. Who you got going next?
Let's go RJD.
I'm having mute button wars over here. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me good? All right. Sir Hell, like he said, very eloquently said, like that was phenomenal, because that's exactly where I was gonna go. Over the last 5 years that I've learned that I'm stronger when I submit to another man as a man. Before his 5 years would pass, if you asked me that same question, I'd have told you some choice words if you'd asked me to submit to another man. But after being around the men that have helped me see things differently, that actually poured into my life and actually made my future different for my son and my daughter, their sake, and the valuable information that they showed is priceless, because now I can give my kids the wisdom that I felt like I was lacking in certain areas. So it literally took other people to come around me and say, hey, let me show you this. And the respect value, right? Like, if I want my son to respect me, he needs to be able to see that I need to respect another man. So I love that point, Sir Harold, because that's truly what it takes for a man to understand he can't do this by himself. Yes, our wiring says we can do it by ourselves, but in no actuality, there's no man on the face of or walk this earth that's ever done anything by himself. It all took some help. So that's my outlook on to it. We got to submit to another man, and definitely not the man, but the God in that man. And it takes discernment. You know what I'm saying? Don't just submit to anybody who comes around with gray hairs or that could put some words together. Trust your spirit, trust your instincts, have a discerning spirit, and understand that your soul not gonna leave you wrong. So that's what I got for y'all on that one. And I'll say, let's go to my man Dwayne next, right next door.
Appreciate that, man. Yes, I would say the man should submit to God. That's what the Bible says. So the beautiful thing about that, like, you know, I, I want to read this real quick. So it says, fear not them that can kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him that is able to destroy both the soul and the body in hell. God is the ultimate authority. So the way I look at it, it's crazy because it's like it says one day every knee shall bow. So it don't even matter if you on the team, not on the team, whatever it is, it means every, right? And that's the authority in which I submit to. The one that I'm willing to submit to right now, here and now, rather than whenever it's too late and I'm gritting my teeth and mad as all get out because I'm having to submit to something that I don't want to. This is where, whenever it comes to authority is like attitude. It could either be good or bad. So authority, it can be either good or bad. So the God I serve, the Bible says, is a good God. Therefore, I will then submit to a good God. That's who I'll submit to. And I'll go with Kelly.
I think that men should submit to God and themselves and the positive influences that they have surrounded by them, whether it be a man or a woman. Just because you can learn something from both. You know what I mean? Um, you can learn something like a man that's being raised by a single mother. You can learn how to be a positive male figure, even though you're raised by a single mother. You can still learn how to be a positive male figure growing up in life. So I think the main thing is submitting to God and just the positive influence that you're surrounded by.
That's what's up. Who you got going next?
Since we kind of going in order, I'm gonna say prototype.
We did going on.
Yeah.
So I like what Bruiser said. Submit to reason. I like that RJ added the use your discernment. But first and foremost, like everybody's saying, submit to God, right? But I'm very sports oriented, so I can use sports analogies and submit to it. I'll say you'll submit to the environment. So whoever's in charge of the environment, that's what you submit to. And if you don't like the leadership in that environment, then you get out of the environment. So if you're on a team, you submit to the coach. If you're at a job, you submit to your manager. You know what I'm saying? And so on and so forth. If you're in a church, um, you you submit to the pastor. I mean, it feels awkward to say, but yeah, you submit to the pastor. And
Yeah, Prototype about to get in trouble right there.
The second time he was like, "Yeah, that really."
but I mean, it just all depends on the environment at hand, right? So whoever you have to submit to whoever's in charge of the environment, and so I spent some time as a bouncer, and when I was the bouncer at the club, uh, when I said something to one of the guests, if they don't submit, they're getting up out of there. So I mean, it just comes with that kind of situation of the ruling at hand. You submit to the environment, and if you don't like what you have to submit to, then you leave. So yeah, let's go with Shay, since we're going in order.
Thank you, prototype. Initially, I'm still on board with what everyone said in terms of submitting to God, and I was thinking how my son is when I tell him something or when his dad tells him something. And especially as he's going through this whole preteen phase, it's a different type of relationship now. And so I was thinking about that, and I'm like, I'm on board. You men definitely do submit to men, and I'm just like, it's so easy for the fellas now as we're transitioning. It's much more difficult for me as a woman, um, for him to submit. But I think, I was an athlete as well, so you definitely see men who submit to other coaches, but I think good leadership and respect goes with that. And so that's what makes or encourages a man to want to submit to another man, is that good leadership and just that level of respect. So those are my 2 cents. They submit to God, to a man, with good leadership and respect.
That's what's up. Does anybody have anything to add to this particular question as we build towards the main topic?
I would also say, just to Shay's point about that good leadership, also vulnerability. One of the best things that my mentors have showed me is that they just like me. Like being relatable, understanding like, yeah, you've been through it, but that didn't change your chemical makeup of being a man. See, a lot of times we give ourselves our good stories, and we don't talk about the bad. So a lot of times somebody coming behind us feels kind of distant from our stories because we didn't let them know about the hard times. But my mentors have been a phenomenal job of showing me that ugly, showing me their down points, showing me where they made mistakes, because that's what gave them their character. That's what made them who they are today. So I think vulnerability and transparency is a major, major key point, which makes another man want to be submitted to another man.
Yeah, I do have one other point as well. I think that's a really good point, RJD. Submission should not mean that a man has to act like he's less than to make the person who he's respecting feel bigger. I mean, I think there's a lot of men who they want the submission because there is a genuine joy in serving and giving. But some men are not secure in themselves and they start to feel threatened. And anytime you're submitted to somebody who's threatened by you, the relationship becomes poisonous, and you will start diminishing yourself to come off as a non-threat, to make the person you're submitting to feel better about themselves. And so every man has to be very careful of this. You don't submit to somebody who's competing with you. Like, you submit to somebody who's established in their own life, and they might still be chasing something. But I think this is where a lot of men get messed up. You see somebody who's got it going on, who's got money, who's got the lifestyle or age, and you assume because they got more than you, like that's the person. That's not the way that it works. That ain't the way that it works. Sometimes it's not about a person having more than you. It's about them being further than you and them having something in them that's uniquely designed for them to pour into you. And I think that's where so many different men, we get discouraged and we say, to heck with this. I'm not submitting to nobody. I'll submit to myself, because we end up trusting someone who cannot handle where we're going. They can handle where we are now. They can handle the man we are now, but the monster that we are, like the beast that we are in life, most men can't handle that. So I think it's very important for men to get with other strong men. And if that man is not encouraging you to be the big you, but you got to shrink, that's the very wrong person. And that in turn, if you submit to that, you're going to poison the people who are submitted to you, right? Because it all flows together. So I wanted to put that point out for, especially for the younger men who are growing up, who are trying to become successful and be established. It's very important. You get under leadership that's stable and that's secure. Anything other than that is gonna impede your development as a man.
That's a phenomenal take. I'll give some anecdotal situations, right? I have a couple different mentors. One of them, I have a spiritual mentor. He's Dr. Ron is probably like 80 years old, been married like 55 years or something like that. And we meet on every Monday. And I talked to him about my week, and he talks to me about his week. One of the interesting things about Dr. Ron is that you never feel like he is over you, right? He never makes it seem as if your situation is minor. And matter of fact, he tells people that he learns from me based on our conversation, right? So that's good for people to understand that just because somebody may have more than you as it relates to financially, that doesn't mean that you don't have more than them in some other area, right? So so mentorship is a matter of you're learning here. This is what I come to you for, but they also should be able to have some value from you as well. That's a pretty dope take. That's what's up. So as we transition, right? Then and you all did a very good job of stating that particular point. I wanted to ask this question then. What do you do when those in charge overuse their power? What do you do when those in charge overuse their power? Why are you smiling, Sir Hale? Why are you smiling, bro?
Yeah, as men, like we gonna tear something up. I wish your brother would.
Would absolutely. We're gonna start with Shay. What do you do when those in charge overuse their power? And some of your employees may say this about you, Shay. You know what I'm saying?
No, they don't. They don't. I can, if you have an avenue, I guess, to report it, then you do that. But I'm definitely the encourager of the person, like Prototype said. If it's not fitting you, move around. Like, if it doesn't benefit you, you just find another avenue, you find another road. And I know most people are like, well, you can't just leave every situation that isn't benefiting you, but you can. It's just very simple. You just leave. If it's not serving its purpose, if it's abusive, you leave and you don't return back to it. I'm a huge advocate of that, and that's probably how I landed, to where I am. So I think that if they abuse it, then you can notify whoever else is in charge that is above them, if there is anyone, and then you exercise your other rights to move around and leave.
Who you got next?
Prototype.
So interesting that you said if we all said submit to God first, right? So in that theory, there's always somebody to see the manager on, because there's God. You know what I mean? So I always never get mad at a person doing their job. The first thing I'm gonna say is, let me talk to the manager. You know what I mean? And they're simply just enforcing their job. Even when it comes to let's say law enforcement or whatever, I'm just going to comply with whatever they're saying. Oh, I'm coming back. You know what I mean? I'm going to see the next level. But in a situation where that person is the highest level in the environment, there's always God to say, hey, let me get on my knee on this one. You know what I mean? And hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Fix this. I need this. You know what I mean? And then after that, it's just complete comfort in knowing that it will get handled. You know what I mean? So you just got to have that to keep your cool and not trip. As long as you know, I have an interesting story. I don't know if y'all want to hear it or not, but as long as y'all know, there's always God at the top, or there's somebody you can go above and get it resolved. You know what I mean? It should be easy to be cool, but it's typically not. But let's go with Kelly.
I see you. We're going back. We're going back other way. Is Kelly there?
I'm here. I was dealing with my kiddos. Y'all ring me back up to speed. I just lost my train of thought. I really did.
It's no problem. Prototype did that on purpose. Absolutely. What do you do when those in charge overuse their power or authority?
I'd have been in this situation before with being in the military and just being in the civilian sector. I pray about it first because I have to pray for myself how not to react to them doing that to me. Pray about it, and I know recently I've spoken to that person about how they made me feel. Like I recently told a supervisor last year, I was like, "Yo, you messing with my anxiety. Like you really are." And I think because as I've grown with age and this is with maturity, I know it's a way about um, how you say stuff, not what you say, but how you say stuff. So I had to let her know, like you're messing with my anxiety right now. So I think now I pray about it and I speak up for myself on these jobs and stuff. Just I do it in a respectful manner.
Who you got going next?
I'm gonna go with Dwayne.
Man, I'm over here taking notes, man. Yeah, this is some good stuff. So I look at it. I'll say a lot in a lot of these situations. I'll say Joseph from a biblical standpoint. But I want to go back and I was catching if I understand what y'all were saying earlier, like I believe what y'all were saying was if you're in a situation where you don't desire to be in, you could always leave. I heard a couple of people say that. I think it was Prototype, and I think Shay also may mention that as well. Am I mistaken? All right.
I said that.
All right, done deal. And this is no direct attack. I just as y'all were saying this, this came through my mind. I remember a couple of months back, Kanye said that slavery was a choice. I wanted to see if the same thing, like in it, like being held in a situation like it's a choice whether to remain there or to then go and flee. And I remember him catching a whole lot of flack for saying that. So I was curious to see the thoughts on that real quick.
I personally think I would have ran, or I personally think either I would have tried to encourage people to revolt with me, or I would have been like, if I couldn't get the numbers up to do whatever or be influential enough to say, let's take it over. I probably would have been the ones that like, all right, I'm getting on and getting out.
There was a. Oh, so go ahead, Chip.
Go ahead, sir.
No, ladies first.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, to think in retrospect, you'll have a different mentality with the resources that we have. So it's truly, I couldn't put myself in the situation without having the resources, without having the knowledge, and make a decision in regards to how I would react. I know what I would do now with the resources and with the knowledge of what's on the other side. But I believe that they may have during that time thought that they didn't have a choice.
Hold on, Kelly, can you go on mute, please? There's some background noise. Thank you.
It was so systemic and just coming from all sides that it probably felt like they were entrapped and didn't have a choice and had to submit to the laws of the land, amongst other things. So that's my response in regards to that. I know what I would do now with the knowledge and the resources, but I can't say what I would have done then without having those things and the access that I have available today.
Yeah, so I was going to say, Ed, there was a point in my life where I thought the very same thing, right? If you're a tough person, in your head, you're like, if this was me, let me tell you what ain't finna happen. It's about to be a fight, about to be a rumble in the jungle today, right? So you believe that. But I've been doing some research on this because it's easy to just talk about what you would do, but there's a such thing as a sort of genetic transmission of trauma from one generation to the next. So there's a study coming out that's emerging that suggests that you guys have probably heard things like a mother who is depressed, during the pregnancy could end up, causing that to happen to her unborn children, right? So you guys heard that. Well, the science around that suggests that trauma that happened a generation before you can do something to the genes of the people who are experiencing that, so that those who pass through those genes experience stuff that they have no idea of what's going on, which is why you see certain people who are predisposed to depression, so on and so forth. All that to say, I think that it's easy to say what we wouldn't do, but a lot of us, we wouldn't know unless we've been passed down those traumas and we've been exposed to stuff that we have no context for dealing with, right? So I think that in an ideal sense, I would want to fight. But if I put myself in that position and I saw my mother viciously assaulted, and I saw the men in my life, the strong leaders, broken. Y'all know what I mean when I say broken. I'm using that word intentionally. That does something to you, and I think after a while you become programmed to be safe. And let me give you a real scenario where people deal with. So a man has small children, right? And he has to think about, is he going to fight to defend his ego and to defend his masculinity, or does he have to take this to protect his kids? That's a very, you know what I mean? Like, what do you do in a situation? And I think that's why it's very easy to say what we would do, but the truth is none of us really know unless we're in that predicament.
Man.
None of us really know.
Yo, Sir Hell, I love the way your brain thinks, because seriously, I get so sick and tired of people talking about what they would do in situations. You don't know unless you've been in that situation. Like, we can sit here and say, yo, if was a fifth, we all be drunk. That's what my teacher used to tell me. But the truth of the matter is, you don't know the situation until you've been in it. How do I know that? One of my early memories about my childhood is with me and my friends used to be outside all the way. And in New York City, there's a lot of gunshots that ring out. So that's a part of our conversation. Yo, if shots ring out, what's gonna happen? And we will always say that until that magic day when you're on the block and them shots ran out. And guess what happened? The very ones that was talking that crazy nonsense about what they would do, the tough ones, we had to grab because they were stuck from trauma and fear in that moment. It's fight or flight. We get to talk about that freeze. Because that man, the very ones I was talking about, oh, yo, I'm going to go get mine and do all this crazy stuff, was sitting in the middle of the street, a target, because he was stuck and was scared to death. You don't know what you're going to do. Even young men now, even myself, I'm going to be very transparent and vulnerable. When I was younger, I was one of the young ones that was talking about, oh, if I was younger back in the day of slavery, I would do X, Y, Z. Getting older and learning more things about what you thought you knew would teach you a lot different. Because if I seen, like Sir Hell said, the people that I looked up to broken, the men that I looked up to and called my uncles and my granddads, and the ones that I looked up to give me that their valor as a man, if I seen them being broken as individuals, not even their bodies, but their spirits, if I seen that, I wouldn't have the same confidence I have right now. So the truth of the matter is, yo, we don't know what we do. And like to the question about what we do when there's people that overuse the power, I'm gonna be vulnerable and transparent again. And my mother, she know I love her. But when I was younger, even she'll tell you, she abused her power with me. I used to get beat on just because she was trying to make sure I didn't go wrong. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't do anything. I used to get beatings on layaway, right? Just in case beatings. But guess what? I couldn't get away from that abuse of power because that's my mother. So what did we do when they overuse power? Like we said earlier, the best thing we're going to be able to do, especially when you can't get away from it, is look to the hills, which will come your help. You got to look up and you got to pray to God and ask God to get you up out of there. Because let me tell you something. As a young man, I asked God to get my mother off me, because I'm like, yo, why am I taking these whippings? Why am I taking these behind kickings? And the truth of the matter is, it was her thinking that if she beat me enough, I wouldn't go the wrong way in the streets. It was her trauma of seeing her brothers going the wrong way. So yeah, you gonna have to look to the hills if the people that have the power and the reign over you are abusing it.
I think we know who next. I think we know who next. It's on you, bros.
You know what's
Bruiser watching the game.
You don't
He
know.
sit over there until like he didn't know it was him. You know what's coming to you next.
Nah, I thought it was somebody gonna choose or whatever. So what I would do if the person above me is overusing the power, I would call. I mean, that's like abuse, right? So, first thing I would do is I would try to like write all that stuff down, like try to figure out how to record the abuse, or what I'm saying, them overusing the power. And then I would try to reach out to like HR. I was in the military, so I would reach out to like one of the other sergeants or leaders or commanders or whatever that's affiliated with the organization, and to figure out what else I got to do, or what I'm saying. I would give the person a chance. Like, I mean, I was in a supervisor position, so I would want whoever feels that I'm overusing my power to come to me and talk to me, privately. Give me the opportunity to try to fix it. So I would try to address the issue privately in a professional way. I would go through like a series of steps before it get ugly, because I got to protect myself. And in most cases, I mean, if you in like a professional organization, they have like policies, what I'm saying? Like if something like this was to happen, I'm saying, you can follow like a reporting procedure or something like that. And it get worse, just consider like maybe taking legal action, you know what I'm saying? Because you could put yourself at risk, your safety is the concern at that point. So you got to look at, do you really want to allow this to keep happening? So those are the things I would do. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. That's all I would do. I mean, you can call it a snitch or whatever, or I don't know if I was a police officer, what they would call that, bringing down a blue shield or something like that. I don't know.
Can I pose a question as well to this? So, I hope that cool with you. Okay. I'm just thinking, because it could be said of all of us, if whether we are a parent or a supervisor, it could be said that we're abusing our power. Do you think that it's the best approach is to go to that person and at least try? I mean, assuming that they have the personality where you can approach him. Do you think it's better to just talk to them one-on-one first? Because maybe they doing something and they don't really know unless it's like a blatant thing. But would you guys consider going to them first and talking it out with them?
Mm-hmm. I know why you asked that, right? Because nobody said go to the person that's is offending them. Everybody said go beyond them, right?
Yeah.
If they have issues. That's a good take. Go ahead, Kelly.
I've learned just through military experience and just through my own personality, you should go to the person first. Because, I mean, when you take it up to the next level, you can say, hey, I addressed it with this person. And, it's whether or not the higher up believe you or not, but I think you should give the person who you have the issue with, the person that's in charge, you should let it be known, hey, you're making me feel some type of way, because just with a lot of mental health things that's going on nowadays, you just never know what a person is going through mentally. The person that's the person that's like for instance, if I remember it was a worker back in the day that went and did some I don't know if he did like a killing or something at his job. So hey, I'm laying it out on the forefront. You messing with my anxiety, so I'm addressing it to you. So I think you should address it to the person that's abusing the power instead of, I mean, especially depending upon the situation. Now, if they're doing blatant disrespect and everybody knows it and nobody's doing anything, you do need to take it to the next person instead of going strictly to that person.
And I think it just depends on the nature of the offense. I definitely like instill that in my son. If he comes, like just this past week, he was telling me that someone did something. He was like, one of his teammates who did something. And he didn't find it cool. And he was like, Mom, I want to tell you about something. He was like, they lied on me and they said this, and this, because they've been on the team a much longer time than he has, because he's the newcomer on the team or whatever. And then I told him, I said, okay, well, how did that make you feel? He was like, you know, I just didn't think they would have did something like that because we supposed to be brothers because we teammates. And I was like, that's true. So the next thing you want to do is the next time you see him in practice or at your game, just go back to him and be like, hey, bro, that wasn't cool that you did that. I didn't like the way you did that, because I do think it's important that you are able to and know how to speak up for yourself. If someone does something to you that you didn't like or lied or whatever. So that's what I told him. I was like, you should do that. And then he was like, they ain't gonna care. He was like, they ain't gonna do nothing but laugh. And I was like, and if they laugh, then the laugh is on them. Like, it don't matter if they laugh, it's what you doing. Like, you standing up for yourself and you letting them know that wasn't cool and I'm not tolerating that because we supposed to be brothers. Like, that ain't cool. So of course I was like, well, do you want me to do something? He's like, no, Ma, no, I don't want you doing nothing. I just, wanted to tell you or whatever. And then, so, that's what he did. He was just like, bro, that wasn't cool. Like, we brothers or we teammates, we aren't supposed to be lying on each other saying, things like that. So I do think that depending on the nature of the offense, yes, you can go to the person, but sometimes, more often than not, the person is very much so aware that they are overusing their power, unless they just don't have a conscience. I don't know how they wouldn't be aware. So if it's something small, yeah, you can go to them. But if it's, more aggressive or threatening to you, then you just have to go above them and don't even worry about dealing with them on that level.
And I also want to just point out and say, if you do go to the person, don't have an expectation of what their answer is going to be. Because I think a lot of times when you go into that, you get disappointed based upon what the outcome is when you go to the person directly. Because a lot of times you might think that person is going to feel like, oh, they're abusing their power, but in no actuality, they might feel like in their mind completely justified and kind of peeved off that you brought this to them, because they're like, wait a minute, I'm in the right. And one thing you don't want to do is try to tell somebody that they're wrong when they completely believe that they're right, because it's one of the hardest things to do, especially when you're on a subordinate level with them and they have some kind of superiority to you, especially you're in the 9 to 5 atmosphere. You don't want to go and be, because then they'll call you combative. Then you're fighting a whole other issue in your hands. So I would say always have a third party, right? If you're in that environment, have a third party to be able to help diffuse what may come about that, if the person is not willing to hear what you feel about a situation. Because I've been in that and it got messy. You know what I mean?
That was a really good question, Sahel. Anybody else have something to add before we get to our last question?
Yes, I will jump in on this one.
All right.
Man, so in Matthew 18, to me, as y'all were going through this, and directly to Sir Hill's question, it gives a hierarchy in how you should then escalate conflict. So at first it says, if your brother offends thee, go directly to your brother and state your case. And if he hears you, then you've gained a brother. But if he doesn't, it gives an escalation point. It says, then bring one or two more people with you directly to him. And that's more people. So you'll then be able to see, hey, you acting up or I'm acting up. So it gets to distribute it. But then it says, if that does not work, then you escalate it again. And it says then to escalate it to the church. And you escalate it and you bring it to the church. And if he doesn't hear you, then guess what? It gives another escalation. It says then you turn him over to the government. And that's where you get into legal actions. So it gives the ability for the person who has faulted or trespassed against you to make it amends before it escalates all the way up to the legal parameters. And I think that even goes not just to your brother, but also then to your spouse. Like, it gives those, hey, you have that's where you deal with it on a person to person before you get the government involved, because that's where you get the full force of the law involved.
And see, and that's the point, Dwayne. Like that's really good, because that if your brother, it assumes relationship. So I should be able to go to you and tell you something. And that was the whole point. Like, I'll give you guys an example. Like, hopefully my wife ain't watching this, but look, so in my home, like the kids will do something right, and their mama get on them, and then the kids will come directly and tell me, and then I'll have a conversation with my wife. And then her first reaction is, oh, so y'all gonna go around me and go to your daddy. So that's how that goes. Now the next day or so, when the kids ask her for something, what's her response? Go ask your daddy. Yep. so I'm saying, so it's
universal.
Yeah.
That's
Go ask your daddy
too, right there.
Yep. So that's what I'm saying. It's best, like, deal with it there first. So you want to give that person an opportunity to at least hear you out, because sometimes people just don't know. And what I've realized in leadership, if the leaders are putting pressure on you or over exerting themselves, it's typically they're doing what's being done to them. So everybody's feeling. That's typically what I see happen. So I just say, in these situations, give the person the benefit of the doubt, have a conversation with them. And I think when you do that, you win respect that way as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, just want to throw that out there.
That's good. So with the current events that have taken place, I've been trying to research what happened and things of that nature, the backstory, so to speak, and not just what they give you on TV. But nevertheless, here was a situation where the gentleman, I think Mr. Nichols, I think, is his first name Tyree or Tyree?
It seems like they've been pronouncing it Tyree.
Yeah,
Tyree. Okay,
Nichols.
Trye Nichols. Seemed like it was a stop that could have, obviously been prevented. It was 5 dudes, right, on one dude, and so
he was about 150 pounds too.
Yeah, right. And so, I've been pulled over before. I remember when I was 18, and I was driving my mom's Cadillac, and it was the tail light was out in the back, and the dude pulled me over, understandably so. It was out, and he was like, I was on the phone with my mom, letting her know I got pulled over because I was on my way home, so I wanted her to know that I was not going to be there in the time that I thought I would be. And he's like, "Get off your phone." I'm like, "Ah, okay." I'm just trying to tell my mom, "Get off the." He was very aggressive. And I was like, okay, well, Mom, I gotta go because I have no idea what's about to take place, And she was like, "Do I need to come?" I was like, "I don't know, but I'm gonna try to get out of this as quick as possible." Now, unfortunately, he just gave me a ticket and let me go, right? But there are some situations that don't transpire such as that, right? I complied and I was good to go. But in this situation, I have no idea if he was complying or not, right? But what I want to talk about is what will you teach your children about encountering police or the police? What will you teach your children about encountering the police? And anybody can start, and then we'll go. You just jump in, just talk.
I actually got stopped yesterday with my daughter in the car, and I was on the phone with my mom. And when he came to the car, I was like, "Mom, let me go, let me go, let me go, let me get off the phone." But what I would teach my children is just I'm showing them right now because this is not the first instance that I've been stopped in the car. I always be respectful. Just because I never really had a bad encounter, but just be respectful, be yourself. Don't do what they ask you to do. You do it. Jesse, be quiet. Give them an assurance they, your license, you do it. Just always be respectful. But now, what I do tell my son is you do have, with being a black male, you do have one strike against you. I do make him aware of that. But I'm just always be respectful, and whatever they ask you to do, you do it. So that's what I do teach my children. And just from learning experience, them, being in the car with me, with being stopped, I'm always respectful. So that's what I'm teaching them by showing them, because I've gotten stopped a couple of times with them in the car with me. And I actually came out with a warning yesterday. So
I would teach our children to first. I would say just be compliant. You know what I'm saying? I would sit down and watch videos. I would try to watch videos that they could suitable for them. I know that children and some of the stuff you ain't supposed to show them, but I would show them most of the videos that where you know it can be a slippery situation where if you don't listen or you try to say I know my rights or what did I do or I ain't doing nothing wrong, uh, that's not worth your life. Just make it home, and if you got a complaint or you got a dispute, you can always file that with the office at a later time. Just make it home, be compliant. If they actually get out of the vehicle, don't sit here and say, "Oh, I don't have to get out of it. I know my." Just get out of the vehicle and immediately put your hands on your head or behind your back, wherever the officer say. Show your hands and put your hands behind your back where they can, whatever. Because last thing you want to do is get put to the ground, and now they got to try to turn you over so you can reach, and it might look like it can just go so many ways. And I also have them download this ebook by D.L. Hughley. Say how not to get killed by the police. It's smart, but it's also funny at the same time. So yeah. So I think it's just a matter of being compliant, and it's just make sure you can make it home. And I think a lot of times it's ego, especially when you know the law, you can quote that thing. You feel like you got a little power over the man with the badge. It don't work like that. I get it. Some of these guys are pricks. They abuse their power. But the important thing is, like Craig that has said, he lived to fight another day. That's
Yeah, my response to that is very similar to what Bruiser said. I didn't think about sitting down watching videos with him. I will do that. But the three things is be calm, be respectful, and comply. Do that no matter what. And I think if they can do that, because my goal is to get my kids home. Now, once they get home, I'll go take whatever legal recourse I need to do for them. But I want my sons and my daughters to make it back home safely and sound. You know what I mean? So calm, be respectful, comply with what they say, and do your best to remain calm, even if they're, you get one of those bad cops that's trying to agitate them, stay calm, stay respectful, and comply with what they say.
I think we're all on the same accord here when it comes to that. Because for me, it's comply, and comply some more. Like just be cool. Like even when I get pulled over, um, they're gonna ask you license and registrations. Like before they even get to the car, I'm holding license and registration at the window. You know what I mean? So it's like I- they don't even necessarily speak to me. They're like I know like cops are bad cops when they start asking you like additional questions for something. You know what I mean? But for the most part, you get pulled over. I'm holding my license and registration. or they'll check registration no more because it's on your tag. But I'm holding it right at the window, so they're just gonna walk straight up and just like, oh, he has it, boom. They're gonna run it, sit there, don't move, and be cool. Like it's just it's not rocket science, and don't make it rocket science, and it's just keep it simple. And as ask your question, one word answer, yes sir, no sir, but for the most part comply. And like I said, I stay lawyered up, so I could always fight it. And I just have an understanding that the officer is just doing their job, and the judge has the final say over anything. They can't overturn it. You can't argue I wasn't speeding or any of that. It's going to be up to the judge anyway. They can't make the decision. So wait till you speak to the judge before you have any kind of rebuttal, and that's keep it at that.
Um, I was sitting here and I don't know if you guys see me. I got kind of like triggered a little bit, and the tears began to roll down my eyes when Kelly began to speak about what she has to tell her son. We've normalized, and I know it's been 400 years, y'all, but as soon as we walk outside, we got a strike against us. Somebody asked me the other day, when do you have peace as a black man? I'm still trying to answer that question. When I'm on vacation, I can't find rest. I can't find peace because I don't know when it's up for me. I don't know when I'm gonna have to encounter somebody that don't like me because of my skin color. Yo, Kels, I feel you. I got a son that's gonna walk out these doors at one point in these days. And what do I tell him? Pretty much what you guys said. Comply. But see, like you said, prototype, we got to give it action. So what I've done, I've created a program, a part of my men's program is called the Get Home Safe System. And like you said, prototype, a part of that is disarming the police before they get to you. Because the truth of the matter is the good ones, they want to get home just as much as you want to get home. So it's all about taking that fear away from them and you by doing like prototype said. You're showing your ID before they get to the door. I'm going to do you one better. Turn your car off. If you have keys, put the keys on top of the car. Take their fear away from them. And I know there's going to be some young man out there has pride as ego. Now, I'm not doing all that. Young men, your life is more than your ego. Do what I'm telling you because it's going to save your life. Take the fear out of that cop. Let him know that you're not going to run on him. Let him know you're not going to pull up on him. Because when you give him that ID, show him both of your hands. Ask permission to move. Listen, officer, my ID, my license and registration happens to be in that glove compartment. Is it okay if I reach and get it? There is nothing in there that may harm you. Wait for the response back. Because once you do these things, if that's a good officer, he's going to understand, yo, this child has been taught one thing, and he's also fearful for his life. So he's going to have a sort of different kind of empathy and sympathy for you. I'm not telling y'all something because I just made this up. I've been with Broward County police officers and I've done this with them. This is why it's in my program. I've done this numerous of times with officers. It takes away the fear. And they'll also see that you have some kind of sense about you, realizing that you're willing to comply. So yes, it sucks that we got to teach our young black baby boys that they have a strike against them when they walk out the door. It sucks.
Why do you say that? I don't necessarily agree or like the strike against you as soon as they walk out the door. Because I mean,
And Boozer, I'm not trying to interrupt you because we can live in this world.
do we sound the same?
We oh my bad. Is that who is that? Who is that talking right now? I'm sorry.
Prototype.
Our prototype, the strike against you. I mean, we could live in this world and say that, yeah, I can abide, I can do the right thing, this and that. But we never know. You never know when it could be your day. You never know when it could be in arm's reach happening in your neck of the woods, it's happening in your family. You
The
never know.
I don't mean to be this way, but that's why it's important to have a nuclear situation, because I just think that men handle these situations in better terms than how women do. I think y'all just have this sense of my babies need protection, my baby's this, my baby's that, and men approach it from a different logical standpoint. And it's unfortunate that we leave you guys to make decisions and think and fare like this, because you're supposed to be under the umbrella of our leadership. But when y'all don't have that, your senses are hyper. um you worry even more now, like, you know what I mean, because you're like, how am I gotta protect my baby boy, and I, he's getting shot by cops, or all these different things. But men know how to navigate the world amongst men that
But
women
I'm
don't
gonna be.
necessarily
I
understand.
mean,
I
I
gotta
feel
I
what
gotta
you're
push back a
saying.
little bit as a man that's been in the streets. Like let me tell you, my brother, like when it comes down to them people, it could be a bad day. He might not have got laid by his wife and he ready to pull out and dump on you just because you don't look like him. And you can't tell me that don't happen, because I've seen it. And this is happening on a day-to-day basis in the hoods across the country, family. Like I can bring men in here right now that tell you they've been violated just because they black and they got a beard or they got dreads. You understand? Like they getting picked on or pulled out because they of a certain way they look. So it's definitely happening because of their hue. That's
It's
not like
it
a new thing.
No, I mean, like I said, I'm not discrediting that happens, but it's the extra attitude that you put on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Sir How, Bruce, like, we all said the same thing: comply, be cool. You know what I mean? And then it's like they'll
Right.
look at you. For instance, here's one thing: I got arrested once, plenty of times, whatever. But I got arrested, and I'm sitting in a holding cell, right? In the holding cell, you know how there might be in Atlanta, there's chairs, and and they're like forcing everybody in the cell.
Right.
I have since I'm sitting in a chair. I know they're forcing everybody in the cell. I'm sitting there quiet like this. While the cop is going around making everybody else go back in that tight little holding cell, she came back around and was like, I didn't even notice you were sitting there. You know what? Just sit there. It's all about just being cool and complying. You know what I mean? You're going to come out on the other end. Don't be snapping back. You know what I mean? Like, from my instance, like, we're all from the same kind of area, and drug dealers be the coolest ones. I learned a lot of this stuff from I know people that have drugs. They just like, just be cool. Yeah, they're the most respectful ones. So, and that's what you gotta be. You don't want any extra heat. You don't, like, so if you're
Now,
barking back, showing any of that resistance, you learn how to be cool. You just want to
I
go
mean,
home.
I
now
feel
I'm
you,
with you on that
prototype.
one.
You can
I'm
you
with
can
you.
just be cool sometimes, but you don't know what they may be going through to not
They
be
may be
just
on.
so cool
Word.
with you.
But what I'm
Word.
saying is,
So
just like I disarmed them with already having my ID at the door. It don't really even matter what they're going through. I'm complying. I'm
I
chilling.
mean, like,
Here it is.
Well,
I'm not saying is there a chance? Yeah, it's the same as dealing with the shark, right? If you're a skilled individual dealing with the shark, there might be a chance that shark's still going to eat you.
Yeah,
But
let
I
me
mean,
keep it. Let me keep it a stack with you, prototype. Your energy about how nonchalant you are with the wrong cop will get you violated, and I'm gonna keep it a
I'm
stack
not
with
being
you.
no,
No,
don't
no,
don't.
no, 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 no,
I'm not
no.
being
I'm just speaking.
nonchalant. I'm not
No,
being nonchalant.
the way you said about just comply, it's not that simple, bro. Like you
It is that
saying like
simple. It is that simple.
but
when
it's
it
not
comes
that
down
simple.
when it comes
I
down to
want to say
complying, it
something.
is. Oh, who is that? I'm sorry, Shay. That's you. Go ahead.
No, I want to say it's not that simple. And one of the main reasons why it isn't that simple is because we're having this conversation about what we're teaching our children. Do you think my white counterparts are having the same conversations about what to tell
That's
their
why I was
students?
tearing up
So
earlier.
beside
That's why
the
I was
point.
triggered,
They
Shay.
are not. Hold on,
So
hold
beside the
on.
point, though, because
That
we're not.
that
So we're
is
not.
very much so the point. Because we have to have these conversations and we have to be very intentional about the conversations that we have with our children, mainly because of the perception. They are perceived to be a threat. How many times has that been used throughout all the chaos? I thought he was a threat.
But
I
here's
fear for
what I'm
my life.
speaking to.
Those
Here's
are
what I'm speaking
very
to. The men y'all have
Let her
to
finish,
think about.
prototype. Let her finish though. Let her finish her thought, and then you go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, those are very what they deem to be real. They perceive it to be very real threats, and it's being used to continue to support the narrative. So I do think yes, we want to encourage our kids to be calm, to respect authority or to be compliant. But you've seen it on the news 1,000 times when the little white kid was just rambling or talking noise and threw a bottle and just went off, and they done shot up a whole school, and they still get taken out with some dignity. You can't say that, the perceived threat because of the nature of our skin color isn't a threat, because it is, and that's why slavery happened, right? So, and it's still happening in different ways. So we do have to teach our kids that your son has to understand that, so he can know how they are viewing him. And this is the reason why we have to take it a step further to educate, to show them, to have these programs on how to interact with law enforcement, because we have to go about it very intentionally and very strategically. We just can't get pulled over. We literally have to teach our kids how to have an encounter with the police. That's so absurd to me. Like, even us having this conversation just pisses me off, because I'm like, we have to teach our kids this. No one else is sitting here having this conversation and really trying to embed and ingrain this conversation and ensuring that our kids understand what they have to do to the fullest extent when they are encountering a police officer. No other families are having to do that. You think the Asian families are having conversations about this? They not. They aren't.
Let me
So
ask a question real quick. I'm gonna come to you, Dwayne. Kelly, can you mute up real quick? So he's the background. Um, this is why I wanted to have the dialogue as well, because I don't think that most Black people actually research anything. They go with what the narrative is and what it is that they see on TV. I would ask the question of how many people know how many deaths there are as it relates to police shootings in America last year. Anybody know?
I saw it, but I can't remember the number. I saw it
Um,
somewhere though.
I'm not for certain, but I know my boyfriend, he did research it. And I think it was more white killings than it was black. I don't know the number, but he
Yeah.
researched it. But
It's
I
gonna be
know
more white. It's
ours.
gonna be more whites because there's more whites in the country, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's based on population, right? Blacks are the most percentage wise, I would say, if you wanted to look at it that from based on per capita, it's 5.9. So it's 6 every million shootings. 6 people every 1 million shootings. What is that percentage? That's crazy low. I'm not saying that you shouldn't teach
Wait, hold
your
on. Explain that to
children.
me. I'm a little slow when it comes to those
No
numbers.
worries.
So,
Like 6 and 1. So if it was 6 out of 100, it
right,
would be 6% that
right.
black people get killed by police officers.
Okay, okay. I got you now. I'm
Okay,
following.
it's 6 out of 1 million. Okay, so as Bruiser was talking about earlier, there's a fear that black people have and that's based on the things that you see on TV, and you don't even do the research. You just follow a news clipping, right? And there are many times that there have been white people that have been killed and not shown. Okay. So it's important. So I'm gonna make the point, and somebody can go, and then we can kind of wrap it up if we need to. But I want us to understand that we need to learn how to encounter the police regardless of race, because the police officer, they they may look at you at the color of your skin. And if you understand that, then you definitely need to know how to encounter a police officer. If you're white, you still have to know how to encounter a police officer. Like everybody needs to know that. I think a lot of black people, like I'm pro-black, but I'm not pro-black in the sense of that I don't understand what the things that are going on. So I need us not to be people that look at a newspaper clipping and be like, oh, okay, this is what's going on in the world. I need you to go do some research once you see something happening, because media, just like the word says, television is telling lies to your vision, right? And they have a narrative that they're trying to stir up. As long as there is a race debate, we will continue to be divided, in my estimation, right? So once again, that's my take, and that's why I always do. That's why I do research, because I don't really like being wrong. You know what I'm saying? And not just spewing out information. Dwayne, it's on you.
All right, so I'm trying to look up this guy's name, and I believe it is Tony Timpa. Has anybody heard of the name Tony Timpa?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
so.
think so. All right. So if I'm not mistaken, this is a white gentleman that died in a similar fashion of George Floyd, where the police officers were kneeling on his neck, and he died because of that encounter with police. I see that there's a disproportionate reporting of violence against the black community done by whites than there are blacks against blacks. In that, I see there's a disparity in that reporting, and I believe that is done intentionally. But I'm gonna go here. So I'm gonna go back to the Bible for me. So I believe it's in First Peter, and it says, "For what credit is it if, when you are beaten for your fault, you take it patiently? But when you do good and suffer, if you take it patiently, then it is commendable by God. If you do wrong and you are punished, there's a difference than if you do right and you are punished. There's a difference in that. So as we're sitting here talking about what we're going to do to our kids, that's teach at home. Whenever it comes to authority, I am the authority at home. So if my children don't listen to me at home, how much will they listen to authority outside of the house, such as their teachers, such as police officers, such as any authority figure? How much will they adhere to that out in the wild? I had a conversation with my 3-year-old today, and it was simple. It was simple. If your teachers tell you to stop, what are you supposed to do? I wait for a response. I'm looking for the response to be to stop. That is to comply. But it starts at home, as the parent, as the main authority figure, because what I'm doing is I am teaching them life lessons out of love. When they get out there in the wild, that's by reality. You get what you get. In the wild, you get what you get. At home, yes, it goes both ways. You can get grace or you can get mercy. You can get what you deserve, or I can withhold what you deserve in order to teach a lesson. But I'm not going to leave it up to chance that whenever my children go out there into the wild, that someone's going to then be able to then exact judgment fairly. Fairness starts in my house. So a part of that fairness is what you put in, you will get out. If you treat someone with authority with a lack of respect, guess what? You open up the door for them to just use their authority, full flex. And that's how I look at it. So for my 3-year-old, teaching them, hey, you know what? Guess what? If your teacher tells you not to do this, and you go out there and do this, and I hear about it, you're going to be in it with me because you weren't compliant. But guess what? If you get in trouble and I ask you, hey, did you do what you were asked? And they say, yeah, I did what I was asked. That's a different ball game from a parent standpoint. So that's how I look at it. As for teaching my children, it starts at home. I am the authority, and the way that I'm just like my God. I'm going to try to be as just as possible. Although I may fall short, I'm going to then be able to exact that punishment or exact that justice as good as possible. So whenever, going back to the earlier question, as for authority and submitting, I submit to God. And like I said earlier, my God is a good God. So that is my image in which I try to be. So as for justice, that's the same type of justice I then try to enact for my children. If you do wrong, you will be punished. There will be grace. There can be mercy as well. But guess what? At the end of the day, you will reap what you sow. I start at home. Whenever you go out there and you break the law, guess what? Full force of it is going to be against you. And I can't do nothing for you at that moment in time. So I start young.
I think that only fathers can install that, what you just said, though. Growing up single parent, I had a problem with authority, but I ain't had no father to be like, to teach me how to be submissive to authority. You understand what I'm saying? So I think a lot of boys are at a disadvantage, or children in general are at a disadvantage when there is no dad in the home.
Yeah. I will say this real quick, Prototype. Earlier, whenever this question was asked, I was thinking back to the days where it's like we cap on each other. Like we, as men, we know alphas. We can recognize alphas, right? And what it comes down to is no matter, hey, you could say a joke and you could crack on somebody, and then this is a comeback. You can't whip me though. You can't whip me though. And that's one of those things where breaking the will of a man, like as for that submission, it's like, you can't whip me though. Some people will try. They'll try. But whenever that true alpha comes in, that's where it comes. You can't whip me though. And that's where that submission comes in. Where it's like, hey, I'm going to lose badly in this conflict. And once you recognize that, I think there's a moment to be humbled in that as well.
I have a question for the fathers on here because this is the struggle that I have with my son, right? And this is where I go into play where you have the strike against on you because you're a little black boy and you're gonna be a black man one day. Um, when I'm the authoritative figure because I'm the mother. When I'm telling you to do something, it's like you always gotta go into explanation with me. And I'm trying to tell my son that you're not going to be if you get stopped, you can't do that with the police officer, son. You can't go into explanation of why this, why that. You need to comply. So therefore, you need to comply with me, what I'm telling you. So what advice would y'all give me is
I would say
raising?
Get his
I would,
daddy.
We're not gonna get on that.
That's
I
the
would,
that's the advice though. He can't listen to you. He won't listen to you. You're his
he might not
mother.
be able to get his dad though at this time.
I mean, she might not, but that's the solution. I mean, if it can happen or not, that's the solution.
But
A
here's an
boy is not
alternative.
going to listen to his mother. It's just not going to happen.
Can I
Here's an
chime in?
alternative. So you probably won't. Let's just say you won't be able to get his father to talk to him. I would actually explain to him. I would explain to him that way the cops won't have to explain to him. I mean, think about it. If he knows full well to the maximum length of what he's supposed to do and why he's supposed to do it in the household, and when he gets out of the household, it'll be second nature to him. I would even turn into a I don't want to say gang, but I would turn it into a project.
Kelly, can you go on mute? So
It's my. I'm sorry. It's my
yeah.
daughter. I'm
No, it's
sorry.
okay. We understand.
I would turn it into a project, to where y'all could set up some type of scenario, you know what I'm saying, and have them question you, and you would, be the officer when he's not complying, and then just try to portray that as much as you can to show him that, yeah, you just need to listen to the commands. That's what I would do. But I think thoroughly explaining, taking your time to sit down with these kids is critical, And if they have full knowledge, if they very well read from the household, then when they get out there in front of these encounters, they'll be able to deal with it.
And I would quickly say just simply
Say RJD,
like
let Sir Hale go, and then you can
oh
come
sorry.
back. He had asked to be next real quick.
Oh sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kelly, just one quick question before I respond. How old is your son or sons?
Oh, he's 11.
Okay, so doing 11 between 7 and 11, this is when their emotional template is being cemented. So at this particular point, what you have to focus on is teaching them how to respect authority. And this is regardless of gender at this point. That's going to be very important because you're right. He has to be able to hear instruction, to follow instruction, especially when there could be something critical that happens. But I do want you to open it up for him to be able to ask questions, because whatever you instill into him now, eventually he's going to end up dating a woman like you. And one thing you don't want to see as a mother is him with a woman who she tells him everything, and all he does is submit, don't ask questions, just go right along with it. So you allow him to ask you questions, not thinking that his questions mean that he's trying to challenge your authority. As a man, he's trying to gain context for what you're saying. That context goes into that emotional template. Now he understands when that situation seems to, reappear in his life, right? The other part is you got to get some men. Like, now you have to get some men in his life. And the reason why this is so important, because testosterone is kicking in. If it ain't kicked in already, right? The hormones is kicking in. That voice is going to get deeper. He's going to get taller. A lot of things are going to happen now.
And when he feels like he's stronger than you.
Yeah. And and the thing is here, like, at this point, you can love him, but he needs a man to help steer him. And most mothers who have to steer and love end up doing a poor job at steering, right? So we got to get some men in there so you can stay mama, and they get a man there to steer him, and he gets a chance to make sense of the world.
And I know, like, now, like, I'm getting a lot of body language. Like, we were just sitting here now. I was like, hey, I barely asked him to wash dishes. I was like, hey, get those couple of dishes. It's like the body language. And I'm telling him, you got to fix that. Your body language can get you in trouble. Like, I done got in trouble before in the military due to body language, facial expressions. So it's like you gotta fix that. And it's like he has one of this particular teacher, black teacher, and I like her. She was saying she had to get on to him, and he was trying to explain himself. And I said I have the same issues with him. And I said, Landon, hey, it's a time and a place when you can explain yourself. Wait till the situation die down, and then come back and resurface the situation. Just like with me, if I'm in the heat of the moment, Landon, I don't need you. If I'm telling you to do something, I need you to do it, and then come back later and ask me questions. So
I
what's
don't know. I don't know. Everybody's different. So as you know your kid.
mhm.
For me, before discipline even takes place and I respond, I ask questions so that I can know what my discipline should be. Right. So I allow them the opportunity to explain themselves so that they can even see themselves that what they did was out of line. Right. So and then he's a dude listening to his mother, knowing that he has to be a man at some point. Right. So if you go and say, nah, you can't explain nothing, I'm finna go ahead and go off on you. Right. In his mind, he's like, well, when I get this punishment and I explain, then what was the point of me even I I got a whooping for no reason now, or I got a discipline for no reason. Whereas if he was able to explain, not a whole explanation. It needs to be short and sweet and concise as much as possible. And then most times for my kids, they walk themselves into why they about to get about to get this work. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I don't put none of them on layaway. You know what I'm saying? I let them know when it's coming, bro. I let them know when it's coming. And I have an 11 and a 9-year old. My 11-year-old is very compliant. Dwayne knows my 11-year-old, but he's sneaky than a mug. You know what I'm saying? However, he's very compliant and he's good at school. My 9-year-old, I have to like really find out what's going on in his brain of why he made this decision. And I'm really currently struggling in parenting him because he's really bad right now. You know what I'm saying? So, but we're gonna kind of wrap this up though. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that helps a little bit coming from different perspectives. You're on mute, Kelly.
I was saying I really appreciate that approach. I'll start probably putting it into play as far as asking him, why do you think you're about to get punished for this and that reason? I appreciate that, Dr.
And I
HD, for
also
real.
Absolutely.
I want to say one thing too, towards your question is that make sure he understands, like you said, it's a time to explain itself because I think that's where a lot of us young men get in trouble at is trying to explain ourselves or state our case in the wrong situation. Like we said earlier, your most important job is to get your behind home and let us as parents go to bat for you. So like when you said earlier about having the rebuttal from the child, when I was younger, I hated my mother telling me, not right now. We ain't talking about that right now. And it made me so mad in that moment. But what it taught me in the long run is that hold your peace. It's going to be a time where you'll be able to state your claim and you won't be in danger, but you'll be able to really explain what really happened. And then the justice will prevail at that point. But the most important thing is to let him know, like, you're going to hold him down once he gets home. So whatever that means, if that means being quiet, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whatever it takes, you get your behind home because that's what matters the most.
I appreciate that for sure.
No, appreciate you for asking. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate you for asking. Well, this has been another HD podcast. You know what I'm saying? We got the Pentecostal charismatic panel want to go over and everything. You know what I'm saying? I just went at y'all pace. You know what I'm saying? Hey, by the way, have y'all heard of a show called Parent Test? Okay, Parent Test.
Yes,
I've seen it. Yeah.
my mom taped the little segment of it for me. Yes.
Well, it has become a show that we watch as a family, and we dialogue about the different parenting styles that they have, and then the kids are put through tests, and the parents have to parent through that particular test. And so I've been learning a little even more about my kids and how they process how I parent. You know, so that there's another tool, if you will. Okay, and imagine it's on ABC, so you know what I'm saying they're not really family oriented, but whatever. All right, hey, check out Sir Hale. He's over there doing big things on Instagram and YouTube and whatnot. We got Bruiser doing this thing. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Bruiser, what's your channel? I don't think I
It's called Concur Network. It's
Concur
a network.
Network.
I'm part of a network.
Okay, that's a bet. All right. Check out Bruiser over there. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you are wearing typically wearing a shirt though, right? Yeah,
What?
on the show.
Oh, you talking about like a Concur Network
Yeah,
t-shirt?
I was just messing with you. You remember when I met you? We was in Atlanta.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wear a shirt over there. Most definitely, they won't let me come on there without a shirt.
That's funny. All right, man. I that's why I never forget you, bro. I really appreciate the conversation that we had too, man. Hey, and RJD, you know what I'm saying, doing things for men out there. I see you in my feeds every day, bro. I appreciate your heart for young men. So keep doing your thing, homie.
Appreciate you, bro.
And then you said you had the ebook or something like that?
Oh yes, actually, I have my confidence development program. It's called the GPS to $1 Million Confidence. It's a guide to help men build confidence and rebuild their self image.
That's a bet. Can you email that to me? So
Absolutely.
All right. Bet. Then
Hold
you got
on,
the
don't you
one.
got to pay for that ebook? Dang,
Absolutely.
I'm saying at least a link to it. I'm not asking him for the ebook. I'm asking him to
Oh.
give me the link. Yeah,
Bruce,
link.
Bruce,
Yeah.
you something else.
I like supporting. I'm good, man. All right.
Nah, I
Cool.
already know. Good looking, man.
And then Sir Hale is in the back. He gave his email. You know what I'm saying? Dwayne, he's doing photography, doing this fizzle. Right.
Is it possible everyone could put like their information in this chat real quick so I can get it?
Okay. What I can do is everybody send it to me. How I contact you, right? And then I can give it to you, so we won't take up some people's time. But I can give it to you though,
Okay.
Kelly, because I'm
Okay.
or I can get it to Shay. Or y'all want
Okay,
to
I
do it real
appreciate
quick? Y'all
that.
can. They got it going. So they got it going in the back chat for you. So I give y'all some time to get that.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna send you next Christmas. I'm gonna send you a bottle of hair dye, black hair dye for your beard. Remember that?
Bro, I'm so cool with my gray beard, bro. You don't understand.
Yeah, I felt trillion because as you can see, I got the patches of gray coming in. They don't do me like that.
Listen,
Hey,
I'm cool with my gray hair. People think I'm
drop the
older
color
than I
code.
am, bro. They think I'm
What's
older
the
than I
color
am.
code?
So
Thank
here you
y'all. I
go.
appreciate that. I got it down.
For sure. Then you got
Sir
Kelly.
Harold, you got some gray hair too, though.
Sir Hill got gray hair.
You better fade to black.
If I did, it ain't growing no more. So
Listen, check out Shay, Miss Tax Season. You know, Shay McNuckles on Instagram and on Facebook, and then Prototype Dad on YouTube as well. I think it's Tuesdays at 8. Is that right?
8 for y'all, 9 for Eastern time.
Okay, so 9 Eastern, 8 Central. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? That's a bet. It's been a wonderful conversation. Hopefully I can see some of y'all next week. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, we out here. Deuces.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
You too.